And we are here for another Drat and Drake with Dr. Cruz Martinez. What a great repeating member. As you guys can see, we're going to be seeing a trend here. I think we'll be seeing Dr. Cruz here quite a bit. Let's jump into it.
Thank you.
Last time we talked about kind of the inner demons of what we give ourselves, or our inner voices, which can lead to anxiety, or it stems from anxiety and fear, and can really kind of end up kind of spiraling a person into failure, or whatever their concept of failure is, right? You gave a very good example for a vet student in their anesthesia class, but it could be anything. And we also talked about, the anxiety or the fear. And as most people are listening to their podcasts on their way to work, they could be stopping the car right now and like dreading having to go through those double doors, right? We finally kind of finished up the episode talking about your inner dialogue and just kind of the choice of words and how you speak to yourself and work yourself through these processes. Dr. Cruz, can you go in more depth with that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Tam. That inner dialogue, when we realize that our inner dialogue is going to help us get things, then we can pay more attention, because we get the things that we don't want with our inner dialogue, or we actually get the things that we like. And with this example with the student that we were talking about, that actually applies to almost every vet student, including myself. But that was about 20.
we don't have to
years
date you.
ago.
It's okay. It's okay. Sometime in the new millennium.
I do remember coming up with these stories. Oh, anatomy is so difficult with this professor. I'm not understanding. I would be studying. I remember myself vividly in the library, just head directly on the books. And as I was reading, my mind would be, what if I don't pass? I'm not really understanding this concept. I wonder who can help me. Oh my God, what is going to happen? Right? So I would spend hours sometimes at a time just basically coming up with all these stories of why I would not pass, why I would not be learning, and all the potential consequences that would come from that. So that has been a very nice change now, remembering myself as that young vet student with all this excitement, all these, dreams about the future, now being able to say, oh, that's how I used to do it back then. This is how I do it now. And I also get to teach it to other vet students and veterinarians and even people at any age. It's this concept that our inner dialogue, whatever words we tell ourselves, eventually that's what our mind is going to focus on. And these stories, if I'm allowed, if I can bring back, you were talking about your daughter in the previous episode.
Yeah.
I know she's around 2 years old. And I remember this time, my daughter is 16 now. And I do remember that my wife said, whenever she turns 2, she's going to go into the terrible twos. It's funny because this concept of the terrible twos is a story. Because what is really happening is that these bright little young minds are developing their brains at a much faster pace. So they have more capacity for language, and they're so curious. So they start, why? Why, daddy? Why that? Right? And
It's more the nose right now. It's kind of what I'm getting. No, I agree with you. I think, my wife and I, we talk a lot about kind of, a lot of, we're in the depth of parent philosophy, where everyone's reading books on how to raise infants or toddlers or children or teenagers. And there's so much information out there where one of our pet peeves is when people talk about terrible twos, and we're not judging anyone. It's just more, there's this, as you're saying, this kind of story that's been built as a society, right? You take the scope of the anesthesia from vet school at class now, you bring it into a global expectation, or at least a national expectation of terrible twos. Oh, just, something we get all the time from other parents is, oh, just wait. Exactly. And it's just like, well, what are you waiting for? This is a beautiful process. It's not easy. This is not easy, but we kind of signed up for it. Sorry.
It's so rewarding. Yeah. It's amazing. And then if we tie the story of your daughter and with the inner narrative, imagine if she learns from a very young age that the most beautiful and the most meaningful things in life are easy, are free, are accessible, are there for her to enjoy. And you can show those things every day. You can say, let's go outside. Let's walk barefooted in the grass. Look at the full moon, honey. Let's see a sunset. Let's play with the dogs. And even just for you, having her smile and laugh at your jokes now, that's probably one of the most meaningful
Yeah.
things for dads at this
Yeah.
age. And that's easy and it's available. So when we use this empowering, positive language, our mind becomes this spotlight that is constantly scanning to see, okay, where is the good? Where is the positive? How can I turn this difficult situation into a challenge? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. So what are some of the key words, whether positive or negative, that you've come across, in your studies?
Yeah, excellent. Well, the first one would be not call it positive or call it negative. We can say that some are more uplifting
Okay.
and they can renew our energy, and others they kind of drain our energy and they don't build up. They're more limiting.
Okay.
And I know a lot of my clients go like potato at the very beginning, but it's really when we make small changes in these words in our narrative, oh, we immediately start feeling better. So the first word would be try. For example, if somebody invites you guys tonight, to go to a play date at another parent's house, you both are kind of tired and you really don't want to do it. You really don't have any other constraints. You could go. You would probably going to say, okay, well, we'll try to make it. I'm not sure, we'll try. Right? Or when I remember my nephew a long time ago say, Uncle, let's go to the gym. I was like, okay, I'll try to make it over there. I knew I was not going to make it.
Yeah.
So this word try becomes almost as a justification, a way for us to have a way out. And it's really a very people pleasing way of, because if you invite me for something and I don't want to let you down, in quotes, it can be very hard just to say, sorry, Alfred, I would love to go. I really don't have the time I need to spend doing something else. It's more like, okay, I'll see you then. Okay, I'll try to make it just in case I might be
Yeah.
late. I'll
I,
try
s-
to
I
make it
super
late.
agree with you. I feel like it's such like at this point, you're spending more energy trying to dance around the answer than just being upfront and real with someone about, hey, like, I'm too tired, or I don't want to, or I can't, It's like you're scrambling,
Exactly.
maybe, but I'll try. I don't think it saves room for very meaningful relationship building. In the context that we're talking about, obviously, there's other ways you can use the word try, but specifically for that.
It creates a lot of confusion and it makes our confidence to decrease a little, because then we feel badly that we didn't say no up front, but then we didn't show up. So almost that we have to come up with an excuse of why we were not able to make it, which we know there's no excuse.
Yeah.
But again, if we use the word try before, it's very unlikely that we're going to say, hey, Alfred, I'm sorry. I knew I was not going to go. I was just not able to tell up front. No, we're going to come up with another excuse.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, I want to be there next time. For sure, I'll definitely try. I will try my best to be over there. Right? So it creates this sense of, and I want to do something, but I'm not very authentic. And that word over time, it gets us into almost this mental tug of war. That I really want to do something, but I'm not. I really don't want to do something, but I do. Right? So it's creating this additional uncertainty. That life is full of uncertainty.
Yeah, there is a beauty to it though. Like when you truly do use the word try authentically, it really does have a lot more meaning to it, because now they see that you've
Explain that to me.
Well, when you do nowadays, when I use try, so someone invites me somewhere, I'm
Yes.
like, what, I have a meeting or I have to be somewhere. I think I can make it work. I'm really going to try. And I show up. or I text them saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually not going to be able to do it. But it's authentic. I really actually tried and I really wanted to do this. I was committed, right? I think that that's the only time, that's kind of what I'm trying to use it for now, is when the
Yes.
actions are truly authentic and not just this kind of disingenuine, like, oh yeah, I don't want to just say no kind of thing. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there.
Now, if you were my client, which you're not, but if you were, and we were in a coaching conversation, I would say that's a great answer. However, you're opening up the door for the word tried to be used as a justification, because there are other words that can be used instead that sound you more confident, that sounds that you genuinely want to do something, yet there's a lot of things that are out of your control. So, for example, if you say, I'll do my best, I cannot guarantee, I would love to go, I'll let you know within 30 minutes if I can make it or not. It's like
Okay.
for any Star Wars fans out there, Master Yoda said it, do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, I could
Right.
I could see the subconscious effect on it long term as you're kind of starting to
Yeah.
kind of, it could chip away at that over time.
And also the beauty of this in a coaching perspective is that if you're able to change one word, if you're not attached to the word try, then you're more likely to change other words, and you're actually more capable to change behaviors, and you're more able to change the perspective about things, right? Is in a way is a training.
Okay.
And we use a word, it's a simple word, we use it all the time. It's part of the training to avoid using the word try. I'll send you the bill
I know,
later
right?
for
Thank you.
this 10-minute coach.
This will be the last episode with Dr. Cruz today.
Good, that's funny.
So, now, tell me more about kind of, once you eliminate the try, how does that end up kind of evolving subconsciously into the human mind?
Ooh, that's a great question. Whenever we make the conscious decision of not saying try that much, we actually start paying attention to the words we're saying. So, for example, with a lot of my clients, they're telling me a story and they weren't like, well, I try not to call my ex. No, sorry. What was it? Oh, try, no. That act of catching yourself and reframing it, that's how a lot of the neuroplasticity changes happen in your brain, right? So we want to be aware that we're doing something. We are doing our best to change it. However, it's going to take time. So every time I catch myself in saying the word and I rephrase it for another, that starts cementing more of the brain pathways that we actually want to use.
Okay.
So imagine using that same concept for more words, for habits, for behaviors. So starting with words is part of the training. It's like if we're going to do a marathon, we cannot start running 10 kilometers at the first time. We got to learn how to stretch. We got to learn how to run. We have to know what sneakers are best. So working on these words it's part of the process. It may seem insignificant, yet within a week of this intentional way of thinking and catching yourself and rephrasing it, you start feeling so much better.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's within a week your mood is more uplifted. And people around you notice it.
What are some other limiting words to try to do your best to avoid?
The word should.
Okay.
What emotion does that word evoke, do you think, whenever you have used it?
Oh, I should have done that. I should have. Yeah, you end up kind of making yourself feel bad that you didn't do it, or that you should.
Correct. So the emotion would be
Guilt.
Yeah. And whenever we'd go, oh yeah, I should have done that. Oh yeah, I should have done that. That guilt starts to build up. Just like with the example that we talked about the breathing, how the breathing that is so fast eventually leads to a panic attack. The overuse of this word should, it builds up the anxiety. It starts becoming a lot of frustration. It starts becoming more anxiety. And eventually, with this repeating inner dialogue, we believe that we're procrastinators. We believe that we just don't have what it takes. When the reality is that we have been having this language pattern, this constant narrative over and over again, that we believed it.
What I think I want to also clarify, or at least kind of make a distinct point on, is it's not like you're saying that you cannot or should not use these words. It's the fact that when it comes into individuals who are struggling with their mental health or mental clarity, it seems like the overarching theme or the common theme with people who are struggling tends to be an overuse of these limiting words. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then words become like tools.
Yeah.
Tools are great for building, but if you don't know how to use the tools, then you're not going to build anything. So that's why using this renewing and depleting of energy instead of negative words, positive words, is a very gentle concept, because that simplicity, it just gives my mind an anchor to say, okay, the more I use this kind of pattern, the more I'm draining my energy, the worse I'm going to feel, and the least amount of things I'm going to be able to get done. So with this should, it also creates a lot of pressure socially.
Yeah.
Because then, if you ask me for something and I said, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I should have done that. And then I say it again, and then I say it again, then it starts becoming this friction in relationships that I told you I was going to do something. I justify myself by saying I should have. And it just creates more uncertainty. It creates lack of confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I guess going back into like the philosophy of parenting, right? A lot of how we try to mentor our children is by instilling the word or the concept of should. Well, I mean, you should be sharing, or you should be saying hello to your elders, So it starts from the very beginning.
That's how it starts. That's the root. And in a good way, once we're adults and we identify that this is something that we got from our parents, it allows us to say, well, they did the best that they could with what they knew. It's almost like, I'm not going to take the fault because that's what I learned. However, I am responsible now to make the changes.
Yeah.
I need to become accountable that what I am doing is a learned behavior that I don't like, and it's up to me to start making the changes. The more gentle we are with our parents, the more gentle we are to ourselves when we make those slow transitions.
Now,
even if you don't talk to your parents, right? Yeah. It's just...
No, it makes sense. So how does the overuse of the word should end up creating how does it end up turning a person into spiraling into something more, into a negative mindset or an unhealthy mindset?
It's a great question. It's all about that repetition that becomes a belief. And once we believe something and we make it part of our identity, it's almost that our minds say, this is who I am. And even I don't like to be a, quotes, procrastinator, the mind interprets that as, this is who I am, that's my identity. And the mind makes a lot of efforts to not break far from that identity. It almost as it defends it. And we start looking for excuses to justify that identity to be held. So in simple alternatives can be the word can, the word want, the word yet, or even will. Oh, I would like to do it. I know I cannot do that just yet, but I can. Oh, and even more accountable, I can say, "Oh, sorry, Alfred, I know I needed to give that document to you. I didn't do it. I will do it by the end of the day.
Mm.
I want to do it. I am very behind with other projects. I'm sorry." Right? When we change this narrative, it gives us
Mhm.
confidence. It gives us a space to be authentic, and it also helps to nurture
Yeah.
relationships, to bring friends closer.
Yeah, very similar to the whole try, right? Where you're not
It's They almost
trying to
go
find.
hand in
Okay.
hand, yeah.
All right.
And the last word, and just to
Yeah.
have three for
Yeah.
now, is the word but.
Mm.
That word, if I say, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this podcast and I think it's going to be great,
But
but I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue," right? Is I'm going steps 3 steps forwards and I pull myself back 5 more.
mm.
It creates so much mental confusion. And it's funny because that is probably the simplest one to change and is one of the ones that we do not want to
Oh, it's
change.
so powerful. It's such a it's such a dominant player in our vocabulary.
It has a lot of strength, and the strength is more to keep you feeling stuck, feeling as you're not making progress.
Hmm.
Because when we replace that word and we use "and," then that word makes us go forward. So for example, I can say, I'm enjoying this podcast. And right now, I know I'm stumbling a lot. I know I am doing a lot of filler words. And when I listen to the recording, I can see all these mannerisms that I do and I look away. And I'm getting excited to change that. And maybe I need a different setup. And, right? Then that word truly makes us see that there's a way forward. If I would start by, "Well, I like the podcast, but this setting is not good. Probably not too many people are going to hear it. They're saying that it's nice, but I really don't think so." So just that change from the word "but" to the word "and" creates relief, creates this sense of relief.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So really, what I'm getting from this is just kind of when you start with these very simple yet powerful words, it creates the foundation of kind of the way you mentally approach tasks, right? And your tasks
Absolutely.
tied to your emotions, tied to your identity, tied to, again, ultimately your mental health and your mental stability. Does that sound like a pretty good summary of kind of what I'm picking up here? Do you have anything to add to that?
It's a beautiful conclusion.
Okay.
It's very very summarized. Basically, our inner dialogue becomes our beliefs becomes our actions then spiral more words, and then we keep going on that cycle. So we can say, "Oh yeah, I've been struggling for a long time with this
Yeah.
mental health issue," or we can say, "Oh, I have been working on myself for a long time. I still have a lot of more growth to do.
Yeah.
I I know I need to read more books, do more other things." Right? It's a
Yeah.
choice. At the end, those words become a choice.
I think it's also important to note that obviously, the although these episodes are, bite-sized, right? Maybe 20, 30 minutes long, and we're talking about very specific solutions, or at least kind of steps in the right direction. This stuff takes consistency and it takes work. It's not as simple as, okay, well, I won't use the word but, right? It's not just as simple as, okay, well, then I'll just tell myself, once I pass anesthesia, once I finish the day.
Yes.
It's a constant process on a daily, hourly basis that you need to kind of work and process within yourself, because the biggest investment is ourselves. Right.
Absolutely. And it's so simple when we think that we have trained ourselves to have this draining kind of energy with the words. So when we want to change, it is literally doing the same process that we have been doing for years We just do it with different words. We have a different intention. Now we are focused on what we want to achieve instead of just repeating things automatically.
Yeah.
That's why change can be felt as something that happens immediately. Because if we realize I have been doing for 30 years this specific pattern, okay, I'm going to stop that pattern and continue doing what my mind knows what to do, is getting trained. I just choosing now to do it in a more empowering and positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny enough, if we're for when we have our moments of struggling, it's because it's easy for our brain to default, but then it's ultimately making our lives much harder. And so to make our lives easier, we have to first go through the hard process of retraining and kind of reestablishing habits that then can create a positive impact.
Absolutely. And the positivity and having an uplifting mood is essential, because whenever we say I'm committed, I'm going to train my mind, I'm going to change this behavior, the mind is almost as it says, no, you're not. No, you're not. You've been doing this kind of pattern for 30 years. What do you mean it's all done? Right? Our bodies, our minds are cyclical.
Yeah.
We have all this chemistry that has been associated with our beliefs. And whenever, just because we change something, it doesn't mean that chemistry is going to change immediately. That's why staying positive and staying uplifted, really using the imagination, is to say, I know I am going to get there. Right now, I don't feel it, yet I want to believe, I choose to believe that it is possible.
I really like that. I'd love to jump more into that in the future with you, because I really kind of care a lot about the expectation of the work process of getting to your destination. So thank you so much for all of your time today, Doc. We'll go ahead and catch you on the next episode, and we'll kind of keep chipping away at this whole process together.
Wonderful. Right. Thanks, Dr. Tam. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.